Before you get started, you're going to want to remove your brake pedal, and if you don't do that first, you won't be able to remove your clutch cover. So remove your brake pedal and then remove all of the bolts for your clutch cover. Once you do that, remove your kickstart, or you could do that before you do the clutch cover. And the reason why I have my bike completely sideways like this is because I didn't drain out my engine oil. It has brand new oil in there. I ran it through its break-in cycles after this big bore install, so it's brand new oil and I didn't want to drain it out again. So if you lean it far enough this way, your oil won't fall out if you want to do the same thing. But if you've already drained your oil, that part doesn't matter. So once you have removed your kickstart and your cover, you're going to see this right here. And I have all of these 6 bolts removed and this nut right here. But that's going to be one of the first steps you're going to want to do, is remove these 6 bolts in equal increments. You don't want to just take one out and then one out and one out and then just leave one that's in there, and it's going to kind of distort the threading and you might strip something. So do it all equally and you could avoid that problem. So after you've removed those 6 bolts, you're going to see have a little groove on this back side for where this gets pushed in, and your bearing goes in there also. If you don't know which way your bearing goes, just kind of look for any wear marks and that'll help you kind of figure out which way it goes in, and you could put that to the side. Then once you have removed those pieces to the clutch, you're going to have one nut right here that's holding down the clutch basket, and this might be a bit of a challenge for you to remove if you don't have the special tool for this. I struggled a bit because I don't necessarily have all the specialty tools for all the stuff I have. So I had to make my own, and just to give you an idea what I did, I put a metal bar from this mounting place on my master cylinder and one to one of these bolts, and it was just a metal bar with a hole on each end. And when I torqued it in either direction, whether this was up or down, it held everything in place so I could break it loose or tighten it. So that was the way I got this bolt off. And before you slide out this cover right here, you could kind of see it come out like that. You'll realize it's hitting this right here. So to do that, to remove that, you have to remove this nut also. And what I did was just kind of wedge something in between the gears, nothing that would be stronger than the metal of these gears. So something like a penny or like soft copper that will be strong enough to wedge in here but not damage these gears. And once you get that, you could kind of pull this out and you could pull out that cover also. And there's no really special way these gears line up, just be sure they line up and spin freely when you put it all together at the end. Most stock parts are going to look like this with little square pads on your clutch, and the new, depending what brand you get, but the Tbolt pads are more of a spiral orientation, and all these spirals are going to go that way for each of your clutches that you put in. All right, so you could basically just go ahead and take all of your components out for your clutch right here. You could leave the basket in there unless you're changing out your basket and all that, if you want to clean it. Leave this on the bottom like that. There's your old set. And it wouldn't hurt to just kind of really pay attention to what you're doing when you do this in your garage. Just pay attention to how everything comes out, how these metal plates are facing, because if you don't pay attention, you would miss that the back sides of these plates have a more flat surface area, and if you look at the front around where the teeth are, you'll see they have more of a rounded edge. So keep an eye on that when you install this, and make sure the rounded edges are facing up and your flat side is on the back. All right, so when you do this, you kind of want your clutches and everything to be covered in a bit of oil. so you don't cause any problems on startup or braking. And you want to start with your Kevlar plate first. So Kevlar, metal plate, Kevlar, metal plate. So start by putting that in, making sure the spirals are going that way in the clockwise direction. These are wet clutches, so make sure the oil you have is for a wet clutch, or else boo-boos. And once again, flat side, you could kind of feel it with your finger on the teeth. It catches your finger a lot more, and when you do it like this, it just kind of rolls right over. So that's the next one that goes in.
Which side goes in?
Flat side down, rounded side facing up towards you. And when you do this, make sure at the end, when they're all stacked in, that all these splines are lined up. So when you put your little clutch basket cover back in, it just slides right in. Really nothing to it, just more of paying attention. And another thing, you see these 3 little teeth in each little section right here? Make sure that those teeth line up in there like this. Just like that. So the little bumps lining up with those bumps. Repeat that process for each clutch plate and disc. And once you finish that, you could add your clutch cover, and we could work on setting the torque specs for these nuts and bolts. So here we have our clutch basket cover. Double check that all your teeth are lined up with the casted ones on the bottom. Then you should be able to slide this in. And just like that. So I haven't added my nuts on these 2 pieces, but before I do that, I'm going to make sure my gears are where they should be. So I'm going to lift up a little bit on the basket, put some pressure down on the cover since it's not torqued down yet, and just kind of find the free groove for your gearing to fall into place. And then bam, it should all be nice and flat, no play in there. Just like that. The gears sitting flush with one another. You're good. All right, so now we can move on to adding our nuts and setting them to torque, our springs, and our other plates. So now we have to tighten these nuts to spec, and if you don't have the specialty tools for this, it could be kind of tricky. And I don't have the tools for this either, so what I did, I got a piece of pretty flexible metal. You could use something more beefier if you have it. And I put a hole on each end, mounted one to the existing holes on the clutch basket. I put another one for support over here so it's nice and secure. And I even have a washer on the underside so everything is nice and tight and not moving around. If you don't have a master cylinder in this spot like I do, you could mount it up on your side plastic over here and you should be good to go. And if you don't have the means to make something like this, this was just something kind of quick I made because I was running out of options. But let us know and we could definitely make you something. But now that we have everything fastened up, we're gonna go ahead and tighten this to spec. I got my trusty old school torque wrench right here. I build old school cars, so I torque them down with old school tools. No, I'm just kidding. I just have an old school torque wrench. No, that wasn't a lie. But here's a soft piece of metal that I was talking about to wedge in between the gearing. Nothing too hard that will damage your actual gears. So I wedged that in this bottom side since I'm going to be tightening it, or you would put it on the top side if you're going to be loosening it. Okay. We're safe.
Everybody holds their breath.
Now we could add our springs to each one of these little derps. I'm gonna go ahead and add all 6 springs because the power I was feeling that day feels like I need all that, so we're gonna add all of that. So before you add your clutch spring plate, if it's disassembled like this one, be sure to get your bearing and bearing race and install this top side up with the ridge. So you would put your bearing in like this, facing upside like that, and this will be your back side. And then don't forget to include your little dowel. Just slide it into your bearing like that, and then you could torque it down to 30 inch-pounds. All right, so after you got all of those 6 bolts torqued down, you just have to throw your clutch cover back on and your brake pedal, your clutch cable, and your Kickstarter, and you're good to go. So if you got through this, congrats to you, and thanks for watching this video. Like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon if you want to see the next video. Thanks for watching.